The best wine in Australia? But not only wine of the year, red wine of the year and Grenache of the year at the Halliday Wine Companion Awards for 2026.
You know, very, very appealing color. Like you really want to put the nose into this glass.
Well, let's go there. 2024 Thistledown Charming Man Single Vineyard Old Vine Grenache. That's a long title.
Today it feels really, really good. I think it's like that juicy, fruity. It's like, you know, beginning of springtime when the sun really hits on those herbs.
And we're going to hear from the winemaker himself on this episode to find out exactly what is so special about what's in our glasses today. Does it live up to the hype? Is it worth $95? He'll be the judge of that. Carlos Santos. Salud, my friend.
Salud.
What does a master sommelier think about Grenache as a grape variety?
Yeah, I mean, good point. I think, look, especially in Australia, I think there's a huge resurgence of interest of the varietal for sure. I think since 1970s, 1980s, where the grape came completely out of fashion, there was a lot of fortified wines, etc., which again became out of fashion. So I think the varietal was a little bit undiscovered, probably until more recently, where now everyone is making a Grenache. Of course, that's also, I guess, to do with climate changing, where the varietal is so sturdy, and even though it's thin skin is pretty sturdy, and he holds up heat very, very, very well. So, and he holding still acidity, even though Grenache is not known for its high acidity, it's not, but it holds the acidity that is within in hot climates. So it's very, very interesting. And then of course, if you pick it a little bit earlier and at the right time, then you can have something really, really wonderful. And also, I think trend, like if you think about everyone is drinking a little bit lighter wines, Pinot Noir and Gamay and stuff like that. So Grenache also offered that, actually.
I did put a post up about this because we went to the Halliday Wine Awards together, and we mentioned this was wine of the year when it was announced, and someone wrote back a comment. I'd like to know your thoughts on it. Poor man's Pinot.
Poor man's Pinot. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way of putting it. I mean, this is how much you say, $95?
$95, yeah.
$95. So it's not that poor man anymore per se, because $95 when you sell in a restaurant is to $300 something dollars. So it's not that inexpensive anymore. But surely you can find a lot more probably inexpensive Grenache than inexpensive Pinot Noir, I would say.
And so climatically in Australia, I guess it makes sense for us to be planting Grenache, as of course we should in colder climates around Australia, like Tassie and some parts of Victoria, Hunter Valley, etc., where they do have some colder climate influence. It makes a bit more sense to have a sturdier grape variety like Grenache, and they've been planted, especially in South Australia, in McLaren Vale and Barossa for hundreds of years.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was want to go, because 100%. There's so much history in Barossa McLaren with the grape, but I mean, I think the first planted Grenache would probably be like 1840s.
Wow.
And some of those vines are still alive, of course, yielding very, very, very low amount, very low yielding, but very concentrated fruit that obviously go into super premium wines. I mean, that's due to the fact that obviously South Australia has been pretty much always phylloxera free. So of course, it kept those vines alive for a very long time. It's really interesting.
I'm very lucky. Some people know, some people don't, but my job is I create podcasts. I have a podcast studio. Got Somme is one of the founding podcasts of Session in Progress. But I'm very lucky to work with Halliday directly, and I've been making their podcast. And just last week, they released their own episode with Giles Cook, who is the master of wine.
Yeah. That founded the winery, right?
Yeah. So they had him on the podcast just after the awards night. And they've allowed us to play from Giles and their podcast what he thinks makes the 2024 Charming Man Grenache so special.
It's a cliche to say the vineyard makes the wine, but it does. Of all the vineyards that we work with, this probably has strongest, yet the most kind of delicate imprint on the style of wine that we can make from it. Whenever you taste it, immediately after it's gone through fermentation. It's so smart. It's very transparent, always relatively kind of pale in colour, but has this incredible kind of tension between firm, grippy tannins and all these sort of very high-toned aromatics, lots of sort of North African spice and rose petals and dried citrus and all of these kinds of flavours. So all I'm trying to do, and this goes pretty much for everything that we do at Thistledown, is as faithfully as possible translate that site into bottle. Obviously, the fruit is hand-picked. It has to be because of the old vines. I pick on the early side. So we have a phrase, we pick on the way up, not the way down. So traditionally, I think a lot of people would want to see fruit physiologically ripe. And then there's always a period of time when you're then organising logistics. And so you may well have missed the best point in the grapes kind of development, just in that delay between when you've decided it's ripe and when you can actually pick it. And generally, while you always kind of are disappointed by picking too late, it's rarely the case that you're disappointed by picking too early. So it's about picking the right variety from the right place at the right time. Everything is wild fermented. And then the 2024 was fermented in a concrete pyramid.
So there you go, from the winemaker himself, that's what we're about to try. But from a master sommelier, Carlos Santos, I'd love for you to take us through assessing this Grenache on the nose. Or the colour first.
Yeah, so the color is really bright, really, vibrant, a lot of ruby tone, light ruby with a red rim. It's really youthful, but, very, very appealing color. Like you really want to put the nose into this glass.
Which we will. Then
the nose, first impression was a little bit of like smoke and tar, which to me like kind of indicates that there's a little bit of oak aging. And then new oak. I think there's a bit of new oak in this wine. And then there's all this beautiful sherry, raspberry, like ripe strawberries. Everything is quite ripe, but it's not overripe. Typically when you taste a Grenache, very, very often from south of France, it's really overripe and macerated, and even the color becomes like a little bit more brick color, a little bit more older, almost like, no, I don't want to say tawny, but like a lot more older color, a lot more older developed color, if I may. And here it's really vibrant and fruity, and the same in the nose. So it's really interesting. Really, really lifted, floral, touch of violet, and then that garrigue that we also find in south of France.
The garrigue?
Garrigue is like, when you walk in fields into the field, I gotta explain, in fields with rosemary and thyme and like bush vines, and it's hard to explain. It's like terroir, it's the same.
Okay, right.
So it's like, it's fields of herbs and roots and
so it's not necessarily down to one thing like thyme or rosemary.
No, exactly.
But it's a collection of herbs.
It's a collection of herbs that you like when you walk into spring, beginning of springtime, when the sun really hits on those herbs. Herbs is like wild herbs and stuff like this. And just you have this smell of roots, herbs.
A collection of things.
Yeah, collection of things. Yeah, garrigue is a really good term, and he's like once you smell it.
Yeah, where do you most see that? Where
just
have
in
you
like
personally smelled that?
Oh, back home, like being a kid, you run into to the backyard. Like that's
well, your parents
not
had
city. It's not city. So
plantings of everything as well.
Yeah, if you live in a little town, that's as soon as you off road, you in the garrigue.
Okay,
it's
gotcha.
like.
Well, I can't smell that because I'm an idiot and an amateur, but fair play to you.
But yeah, really, really lifted, beautiful Grenache for sure. And it does have like that Pinot Noirish, like someone that doesn't know or that's not very familiar with Grenache, how it's being made these days in South Australia, which is this really lifted, fruity, floral, fragrant style of Grenache, then they would think, oh my God, it's Pinot Noir, Gamay, easily could go on the nose.
Which is one of the questions I had. We did a big Gamay episode on the last episode of Got Somme. Drank a fair bit of Pinot in my time. How do the masses, me? How do we assess this as Grenache over Pinot Noir? What are the descriptors that make this Grenache immediately for you? Because I don't think it's possible. Tell me it's wrong. On the color of it?
No, on the color you can't. On the color alone you can't. On
so
the
where on the nose are you getting it?
Yeah, even on the nose, a lot of red fruit, a lot of strawberry, a lot of herbs, which could all go to Pinot Noir.
It smells like delicate on the nose as well.
Some Central Otago Pinot Noirs, for example, get so much heat that they are so much more riper. Even though it's a cold region, but it gets a lot of heat. It's desertic, etc. So it's really ripe and jammy Pinot Noir. So it's more resembling to this as well. So it's hard. On the nose alone is very hard as well. I think with Grenache, it's more on the palate.
Well, let's go there. What are our immediate thoughts of the 2024 Wine of the Year?
I need to have another sip.
I also just, I mentioned the vintage there deliberately. It has had a year of age before being released. It's a new release in the 2024 vintage. So, Thistledown are lucky enough to be able to hold it back for a year with their cash flows. And I think this tastes like a very young wine. So I think it would have been even more green and tight if this was the 2025 release. So I think it is going to get better with age, and we will speak about Grenache as an aging potential.
Quite impressive.
But what do you think?
It's quite impressive. It's really impressive, like how acidity is so lifted, and I prefer it today than on the day of the event.
Yeah, we did get to try it at the awards.
Yeah, we had a couple more glasses, and obviously you in an event, etc. Now assessing it a little bit more calmly. I felt it better than what I found back then.
So what are you finding in this on the palate? Because for me, the first thing that kind of reach out are a medium plus acid. And the tannin structure.
Yeah, definitely lifted acidity. I wouldn't say high by any means, but medium is probably not fair either. Medium plus, depending on which scale as well we're using. But medium plus I think is pretty fair. It's really mouth-watering on a palate. But you do feel the ripeness. I think with Pinot Noir, maybe you have a little bit more accentuated red fruit that maybe lingers a bit more and is like more intense. Also, because of typically the climate, of course, Pinot Noir being cooler climates, I think it preserves a little bit more as well the intensity of red fruit. While here, kind of, you have that red fruit, but you also have the combination of structure, of alcohol, of warmth, and as you say, a little bit of tannin, even though Grenache is not known for high tannins by any means, it's lower tannin. So I think what I like the most is definitely acidity. I think it's pretty lifted, but it's quite delicious. It is quite good, yeah.
One other thing I've just picked up while you've been speaking is a longer finish. Not a long finish to some of the, we had that French Pinot Noir, which I think for me this year has had the longest finish. But I've still got, I'm still mouth-watering. I can still taste some of that fruit on the back of the palate. And so, when we talk about finishes, short and long, this kind of definitely goes towards that more long finish. Yeah,
totally. Acidity helps really a lot to have that salivating going on the palate, and then the fruit lingers alongside the mouth watering, and a touch of wood for me as well, touch of smoke and more smoky. I think it's good quality French oak. Savory is really savory as well. Like that herbal stuff really coming through as well.
Really nice wine.
Really good.
For those who don't know how the Halliday wine process works, it's all blind tasted by a bunch of incredible palates from every wine in Australia, and they all agree upon one. So it is a blind tasting. For me, this isn't wine of my year. We do an episode in December where Carlos and I will pick our favorite wines in 2025. I do think the wine that at the moment is in the top of my charts, I won't say which it is to give it away, but I think it is a better wine than what I've got here. But, I'm an immature palate, and, getting to know some of the tasting team from Halliday, some of the ways that, they work are exceptional. But, I've got to stay true to my Master Somme brother. What do you think? If you're going to do a rating system, I think they put this, I think it's 98 points or 99 points. What would you do if you had to rate this wine?
Yeah, I think I would look. I mean, they obviously, like we did with the gummies, and it's a very, very difficult exercise. Obviously, we tried 12 gummies, and at some point, it's like, oh my God, is this really better than this one? And we got a little bit overwhelmed. And I think, imagine trying hundreds of different Grenaches. I think you really have to be selective and come back to it sometimes. I don't think it's something that you can just do all in one day.
I think it's tasted over a long period of time to let sort of the palate
because
reset.
The palate is today I had the whatever oats on the way here with peanut butter, but other day I may have a strong coffee or something. The palate will be totally different. It will receive the wine totally differently. So look, today it feels really, really good. I think it's like that juicy, fruity. It's like, yes, I do think that there's a huge potential for aging. Of course, the screw top as well helps that, but I think it has a lot of character. The tannin is quite evident as well. It stays on a gum a little bit. For the Grenache, I think it's really lifted. And then, plenty fruit to go through, plenty oak to go through. Like it's intense. It's pretty intense. Now, to rate it, I would have to have like good comparisons. High Sands, it's the top, very, very top Australian Grenache.
SC Panel,
which does all sorts of Grenache from the lowest
old vines as well.
From the least expensive to one of the most expensive, and everything in between. So so many great producers. So
is that how it works though? So when you do a wine judging system, are you comparing Grenache for Grenache? Is that how they get their system rather than just like the scale is 0 to 100?
Yeah, I think before picking the best Australian wine out of everything we make, I think is it really fair? Is it really, I do think that Grenache is making a statement in Australia, and maybe that's, this wine will probably, bring more eyes to the grape variety and what it's doing in South Australia. I mean, for me, what brought me to Grenache in South Australia was a wine called Approach to Relaxation. That's how it's called.
Really?
So an ex-master sommelier. I think the couple lives in. I think they're from the US. They live in Amsterdam or something, and they make wine in South Australia, something like this.
Wow.
And he's an ex-MS. Yeah. So they're just traveling the whole time, and they make this wine in South Australia called Approach to Relaxation. And when I tried that, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's delicious, fruity, lifted. I mean, very similar to this, perhaps a little bit more concentration. And I was like, that was my, not quite introduction, but one of the first Grenache that I was like, wow, this is really good. A little bit chilled, perfect. And since then I've been paying much more attention to Grenache, and this isn't disappointing.
Okay, well there you go. I knew you weren't going to put a score on it, but that's fair enough. Fair enough. I tried. We will have our episode of our wines of the year, like we said, in December. In the meantime, Carlos, you did talk about aging potential for Grenache, just in general, maybe as, because this bottle is sold out.
Yeah.
How long do you think Grenache can go? And, are we talking, is it more than Pinot Noir because of that acid? Like, where does it sit?
No, I think Pinot Noir, well, look.
It always depends, right?
Yeah, it depends on so many factors. Yeah, it depends on so many factors. But you could go by the idea of what Grenache have you tried? What's the oldest Grenache you've ever tried? So I've tried a lot of very old Cabernet. We've tried together a 1960 something a few weeks ago.
Brion? Oh, which one?
Coonawarra.
Oh my gosh, yes, we had the 1969.
69, right?
Yeah, Redmond Claret.
Exactly. So, those hold really, really well. Cabernet Sauvignon is, high acidity, high tannin, full body, high in alcohol. So old, and obviously ripe fruits, plenty fruit. So yeah, that will last forever because there's all the structural elements to age well.
What does Grenache have going for it then?
Well, Grenache have a lot of fruit. Grenache have alcohol, which obviously is a very, very strong preservative. The fruit, very, very,
13.5% alcohol?
13.5%. I mean, but this could be, 14, 15, 16 easy if they didn't manage properly. So I think it's really well managed. Now, what's the oldest? I'm trying to think the oldest I've ever tried is probably Arrayas, which would be 100% Grenache. Is not an inexpensive wine. It's very expensive. It's one of the rarest probably Grenaches in the world. I think it was like 1990s, and that's the oldest I've tried, and probably a few years back as well. So 1990.
And it held well?
Yeah, it held well. It was really, look, and it became really, really hard to compare Pinot Noir, old Pinot Noir with old Grenache, with old Cabernet, everything. Blind tasting just becomes a complete another level. It becomes even way more difficult because all the wines, red wines, become very, very similar in color as they lose color and they become almost amber. So yeah, it held really, really well. It was lifted still. It was, of course, that brown brick color, Nebbiolo-like. Yeah, it was delicious. It was really good. It was really, really earthy, really truffly, really that dried, savory herb, mature.
Yum.
Yeah, very lifted. Very, very good.
This wine could definitely go 5+ years.
Oh, I would say more. On the screw top, this will go more. I think so, yeah.
But I'm just saying I'd like to see it at 5 years and then 10 years. Congratulations to Thistledown. The Halliday Wine of the Year is a massive honour, and to get those 3 awards for the one wine, credit to you. And, we're lucky enough to have one of the sold out bottles, as we did last year as well with Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
So we'll keep that trend going. If you like this episode of the podcast and you're not following us, please make sure you do. We release every single fortnight new episodes. If you have a suggestion for what you want to see us doing on the podcast, make sure you leave a comment below on YouTube or give us a DM at Got Somme on Instagram. We appreciate you spending 20 minutes with us as we talk about, an incredible Australian wine. And like I keep saying, in December, we will have our personal favourite wines of the year. Until then, thank you so much. Salud to you, Carlos.
Salud to you too. Cheers.
And if you want to check out the full episode of the Halliday Wine Companion podcast with Giles from Thistledown, we'll have the link in the show notes.